Welcome to Franchise Empires.
Well, let's talk about, like store number two and kind of the expansion. I know, right, given the great financial crisis, clearly impacted. And I mean, that's really tough timing. So thank God you guys came out the other end of it. But how long was it before you guys, you and your group opened up a second store?
Probably not long enough. So we opened our first store in August and we opened our second store in February. And we had the advantage of private capital behind us. Our partnership is all family. So it's my parents, my sister, and her husband. And my parents were our private investors. And if we hadn't had that place that we could go to get a loan, I don't know that we would have made it through 2008. Obviously, a lot of businesses failed during that time. We certainly weren't making enough money in the store itself to justify how quickly we opened, but we felt like the faster we could get the stores open, the sooner we would start making a return on our investment. So February, and that was the hardest time, I think, in our growth cycle, because I was the general manager of the second store and going into work at 6 a.m. every day, but also the area manager for the first store and also the HR payroll person. So dealing with construction, I'm the only operational partner in our group. So it was just me for everything. And it was physically exhausting. I don't think I could have done it if I'd been any older than I was. I certainly wouldn't be able to do that type of work now. But it was just really mentally taxing. And I learned several hard lessons about why Jimmy John's had the systems and procedures they had in place for auditing paperwork, auditing operations. It didn't make sense to me when I was the one doing everything, but as soon as I didn't have direct oversight over one of the locations, it started to make sense.
Yep. And so if you were the GM of location number 2, I take it you had either developed someone in the first store or found a GM effectively for that first store before you opened number 2?
Correct. So the first manager that I sent through training and certified didn't work out for very long. I think he was gone before we actually opened our second location. But the third person who I developed and sent through training was my assistant manager at the first location, and then moved up to be the GM of that location when I pulled out to open the second one. And then his assistant became the GM of the second location when we opened the third location.
Okay, got it. So not kind of a system developed there. Out of curiosity, what went wrong with that first person who was hired? What kind of things? Because I think maybe from somebody who hasn't owned or operated, any franchise, might just think, you just hire a manager or, and then they do the job, right? Like, well, what could possibly happen? So, what were the yellow flags that probably turned into red flags that ended up leading to this person not making the cut?
Well, I mean, there are always difficulties. Part of it is Jimmy John's is a lot of physical work. We move fast, we move urgently, we make everything fresh, lots of on your feet with one arm slicing meat, slicing veggies. And then you go straight from doing a grueling physical open to being on the cold table making sandwiches in 30 seconds or less for several hours at a stretch without having a break, without sitting down. And if you have the right personality for it, it is incredibly fun. It's very challenging, but it's enjoyable. And you get to the end of your day and you feel like you had a good workout and you made sandwiches faster than it seems humanly possible. And it's great. But the wrong personality is just work, and they never slip into the challenge or the enjoyment of moving like that. So there's a lot of burnout when you get the wrong person in there who saw a management job and expected to be holding a clipboard and sitting at a desk bossing other people around. And instead, they're the ones on their feet leading their team through the day.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think, just working in retail, like that's just called broad-based retail, right? It is such a different just experience for your day from like a desk job or something else. I started my career in like working for an HVAC supply house franchise. Started in the warehouse, eventually made my way up to like what they called like the parts counter, which was in like a retail showroom, and you were standing on your feet all day. And I remember my first day, I was just, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. I was like, not to pat myself on the back, but come from an athletic background, played soccer through college, Division I, but standing up all day, there's something about that, for doing that for 8 hours straight, where it took a few days or longer than a few days, honestly, to be prepared to do that on a weekly basis. So, really good point. Again, just another good thing for folks who haven't done that yet. That is just standing all the time is going to be new for you. So, and potentially employees. So it's a really good point.